Alex, talk to us about NBA. What's going on here?
Dude, it's been a crazy NBA playoff so
It
far.
has.
The East is the first round's pretty much over with. We technically have one series still going. We'll talk with James about that series later. The West, on the other hand, is just a fucking crapshoot right now. It's all over the place. We're going to start actually back with you, Traden, and the game that happened earlier today. So we got Nuggets Jazz. The Jazz did lose Game 5. They had a chance to close out the Nuggets. Did not happen. They're now up 3-2. Game 4, something crazy happened. We've never seen this before in the NBA playoffs. We had two guys drop 50 in the same game, Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray. That's absolutely nuts. Donovan Mitchell has now dropped 50 twice in this series. The only other players to do that in history are Allen Iverson and the GOAT, Michael Jordan. Traden, what do you think? Where do you go if you're the Jazz from here? You had a chance to close it out. You had the lead in the fourth. You fucked it up. The Nuggets came back. It's 3-2. What do you do if you're Utah?
Yeah, so I think honestly, I'm going to say it's going to sound weird. You stick to the game plan. I mean, you're not going to win every single game. They did drop first game. I get that. They did drop Game 5. But those middle three games, save for the closer Game 4, they have been the dominant team. I mean, the Nuggets just don't have the perimeter defense to stop Donovan Mitchell. He's just playing outstanding. He's at 39.5 points per game in the playoffs. That's before this game. He scored 50, like you said, 50 twice against Denver. The Nuggets it's interesting. The Nuggets have been one of the best teams in the regular season for 2 years straight. They just dropped the ball in playoffs. And it kind of is similar to a couple of teams that I even see in the NHL that just don't understand how to win in the playoffs. The Jazz are taking it to them. I mean, I don't know if anybody, I don't remember what everyone predicted, but I don't know if I predicted the Jazz, playing this well. They're playing extremely well. And so in my opinion, Denver got another win. You have two more you have two more chances to win. I think that you continuously, obviously Donovan Mitchell is going to have to continue being outstanding, but just continue to penetrate, continue to attack, and play your game. You're not going to win every game, and that's just the way playoffs go. But I think you just got to continue with it and take advantage of the Nuggets' poor defense this playoffs that have really regressed from even their okay defense in the regular season.
Yeah, 100%. That is, if the Jazz win, that is a 6-3. The Nuggets were really the best team in the West, other than those two Los Angeles teams. But yeah, Donovan Mitchell has just been fucking carrying them. You're gonna need Murray and Jokic to win another 2 games. It could happen. I just don't know if they're gonna I just don't think Utah's gonna let up on the gas. Moving on, James, we got probably the most exciting series of the West so far. We got Rockets Thunder. We talked about this last week. Westbrook and Harden versus CP3. The Rockets were up 2-0. The Thunder came back and won 2 games. Really, the Rockets threw away Game 4. They started that second half 8 for 8 on threes, and then went 3 for 23 to end that game, and they lost. The series is now tied 2-2. In that Game 4, CP3, Schroeder, and Gilgeous-Alexander combined for 74 points. What do you think? Where is the series going? It's just been fucking bonkers so far.
Yeah, man, this has been super competitive, super fun to watch. Really enjoying every second of this. Initially, I thought the Thunder was going to win in 6, but now after watching all these games, I'm going Thunder in 7. This is going to go 7 games. Like, it's going to go back and forth like crazy. In order for the Thunder to be successful, they have 2 big X factors, and that's Dennis Schroeder and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. When those 2 guys play well, the Thunder win. If you see the last couple games here, Game 3, with the Thunder won, Shai had 23, Dennis Schroeder had 29. In Game 4, Shai had 18, and Schroeder had 30. That's what it was. Shai. Okay, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. That's his best friend over there, by the way. They work together personally. But yeah, pretty much if those 2 guys do well, CP3 is always going to be out there doing his thing. It's weird how the Thunder aren't just feeding the ball to Steven Adams, because there's nobody that can guard Steven Adams right now if they just give him the ball. Like, if you see it right now, the Thunder are out rebounding the Rockets by 46 rebounds throughout the series. How they're not just feeding him the ball, I don't know. One other big thing to look out for, though, is the Russ could come back this series. I saw him before the game. He was doing a lot of agility and three on three drills. He couldn't make it back for game 6 or 7.
Yeah, 100%. Russ coming back is a huge factor for those Rockets. There's a good chance it won't matter. I thought when the Rockets traded Clint Capella and they went with this whole small ball lineup, it was super fucking dumb. They rely too much on the three. They had game 4 in the bag, and then they got too happy with the long shot. They went cold and they lost that game. If you're watching or listening to the guys doing the broadcast, they just kept saying over and over and over again, you know what? Sometimes you just got to see the ball go in the bucket, get some easy shots, get a dunk, get a layup. That's all you need sometimes. And the Rockets just refuse to do that. And I blame that 100% on Mike D'Antoni. I still fucking hate him. I don't understand why that dude's coaching. He's possibly the worst coach in the NBA. Mike D'Antoni's garbage. I don't expect the Rockets to come out of this series. They're up 2-0. CP3 is just going to carve them up. Moving on, speaking of guys carving up teams that should be doing better, Eric, I see you got your Clippers jersey over your shoulder there. Luka Doncic. In game 4, he went 43, 17, and 13 on a hurt ankle. Didn't have Kristaps Porzingis. First of all, why is Reggie Jackson guarding Luka Doncic? That's the first problem. Number 2, Paul George scored 9 points. What's going on with that? I will give him some love. He dropped a 30-piece tonight in game 5. What do you think about this series so far?
Yeah. First off, Porzingis is a pussy because he sat out from knee soreness. My knee is sore right now, but I'll take those millions of dollars to go fucking play a playoff basketball game, okay? Second off, Luka Doncic is a man. That guy, you saw him evert his ankle, which is an uncommon ankle injury. And he's been playing like a fucking monster out there on that ankle, like you said. And yes, Luka did hit the deadly scythe of a 3-point buzzer beater to tie this series up. We were talking about this earlier. The Clippers started out very well in that game. They were up by 20 points, I believe, right before halftime. And it's kind of like what Traden has mentioned before. It's like having a 3-goal lead early in a hockey game. In the playoffs nowadays, things can change very fast. But, yeah, Paul George, he played well the first game of this series, and he did have some bad games. It was all over Twitter, all over the social media, everyone ragging on him. Luckily tonight, he has been doing way better. But I think that game, you got to give it to Luka. You got to give it to the Mavs. They stuck in there. But it did light a fire under the Clippers' ass, especially under Doc Rivers and their defensive coach, this dude named Rex, who's fucking a psycho, but he's amazing also of just getting people riled up. There's some defensive struggles going on with the Clippers, so that's a little worrisome, and they do need a little more emotion, and that's kind of what Doc said after that last game. He said, I didn't see any emotion out of my guys, and Mavericks trumped their way in there, and Doncic – Reggie Jackson was on Doncic because the Mavericks are the highest scoring offense in the league right now, and they actually had a switch. So they had a perfect play of pick and roll on Kawhi, which made Reggie kind of jump over. But, yeah, you're right at the same time. Even if Kawhi's getting picked right there, like find some way to get under that and jump in his face because, yeah, it's it was for the game, and he made the fucking shot. He still might have made it with 2 dudes in his face, though. That guy's amazing. Clips need to play with emotion. They need to play all 4 quarters, get the defense right. They need Lou Will and the Trez, that dynamic bench duo, do a little better. They are doing much better this game as they're up by 31 points with 5 minutes to go. But Doncic, it's going to be hard to stop that guy even on his bum ankle at the moment. But I think this series is going to go 6. Clippers are going to pull it off. This game tonight was huge. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was a little worried, kind of how you guys were worried about the Trailblazers, but you guys are going to be fine now. There's nothing to worry about for that, as we'll get into that later. But One game at a time, one task at a time. That's my take so far.
Okay. I 100% agree with you. I don't know if you're a Clippers fan, you cannot be happy with that defensive showing in Game 4. You're supposed to be one of the best defensive teams in the league. You have Kawhi, you have PG-13. You can't let Reggie Jackson be guarding Luka Doncic, who, in my mind, has been the best player in this series. He's amazing. He came out of nowhere, sort of. He was, he was technically, he was a third overall draft pick, but a lot of people were talking shit on him. I 100% believe that as LeBron James ages and retires, Luka Doncic will become the face of the NBA. He's got the personality. He's got the skill. He's got the swag. I love Luka Doncic. If I was not already a diehard Lakers fan, I would be ordering a Doncic jersey right fucking now. I think that dude is amazing. I still have him going 7, mostly just because I really want to see a Game 7 in this first round. I'm hoping we get more than one. With the last series in the West, it is probably not going to 7. Tie, Lakers, Blazers. As we were recording the last week's podcast, the Blazers were shocking the world and beating the Lakers in Game 1. Since then, the Lakers have just stomped on them, just pretty much showed them why they're the number 1 seed. Dame hurt his finger. He still played. He's now out for Game 5. Anthony Davis did leave Game 4 with back spasms, but do you even imagine this game or this series going past 5 games?
Based on everything that we've seen the last 3 games, no, I don't. Especially with Dame out, I think that's the kind of the final kick in the back there for the Trailblazers. That Game 2 defensive performance by the Lakers, I think, turned the tide in the series. Ever since then, I think the Trailblazers have just been, kind of the fire that they had before was just burnt out. So I think the Lakers need to finish this thing in 5 so they don't rekindle that flame if there is any left. Finish it off in 5. LeBron yesterday dropping 30 points on Mamba Day. Amazing. That and AD and that Lakers offense looks like it's clicking again. The defense is, stepping up like the number 1 defense that they've been all season. Obviously Game 1, I was like, shit. This is exactly what I was worried about. But they came back in Game 2, and ever since then, they look like that number 1 seed. So, I think this is going to be over in 5.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially with Dame out. There's some of those playoff runs where you have to squeak your way in, and that momentum will kind of roll through, and you can win some series. But after Game 1, the Blazers just look exhausted, and the Lakers just look dominant. Happy birthday to Kobe. He would have been 42 a couple days ago. Mamba Day was yesterday, 8/24. At one point, the Lakers were up 24-8. I thought that was super cool. LeBron said after the game he felt Kobe in the building. So, RIP Kobe again. This series is over in 5 games tomorrow evening. Moving on to the East. It's almost like a preview for the round 2 because 3 out of the 4 of the series are done. Traden, we'll start with you. You mentioned it last week. I gave you the Raptors Nets to talk about, and you said it was the easiest series to talk about. The Raptors literally made the Nets look like a JV high school team.
Yep, pretty much.
It was not pretty.
It wasn't. I mean, I'm going to keep this short and sweet because I don't think there's not really much to talk about.
Yeah, you really don't need to.
It was a insane sweep. What I do want to bring up, what was really crazy is, unfortunately, first of all, Kyle Lowry is hurt, so him being hurt is going to be a big question mark for this team going forward. He's a huge part of that squad. And I watching him play last year and this year, I really appreciate his play. But the Raptors bench recorded an NBA record 100 points out of the 150 points that they dropped in their Game 4. I mean, that's the most that any bench has ever scored in the regular season or the playoffs since starters were tracked in 1970. Plus 150 is a franchise record for the Raptors. I think that alone shows that the bench is deep and that if your bench can drop you points, that's, in my opinion, that's how you win that's how you win championships. And I always go back to hockey. I know that's annoying, but when your bottom six are producing and your top guys are just doing their thing, you tend to do well. And we'll be talking about this a lot in the NHL side, but this is the same type of thing. If your bench is going to be dropping points, look out, look out, because the Raptors are coming.
Yeah, 100%. The Raptors look dirty. They are incredibly deep. I did have them reach in the finals. We'll see how they go. They're going to face the Boston Celtics in round 2. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. James, the only series in the East that is technically still going on, Bucks Magic. Just like the Lakers, the Bucks #1 seed lost to the 8 seed Magic in Game 1, and then the Bucks have made the Magic look pitiful. I asked you last week, were you worried about the Bucks? You told me no. I'm assuming you still feel the exact same way.
You're correct. I still do. I'm going to keep this short, just like Trayton did. I fully expect the series to be over by tomorrow. The Bucks are going to play the Heat in round 2. Giannis has been absolutely dominating this series. He's averaged 30-plus points and 16 rebounds per game. On the flip side of this, Nikola Vucevic is doing his best, but it's not enough. He's averaging 29.5 and 10 rebounds per game. It's just the Bucks are just the more talented team overall. Magic can't do anything about that. They're trying their best, but it's just not going to happen. So, yeah, Bucks moving on, round 2.
Hey, yeah, real quick, Alex, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Can I know Adam Silver's not going to listen to this. I know the NBA is not going to listen to this. Why the fuck?
Don't know that.
Why the fuck is Giannis playing at 1 p.m.? Because anybody asked why he's not on primetime television? Because it's fucking ridiculous. He's one of the best players.
Everybody's home from work, dude.
Fair enough. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
You got a good point.
The reason he's not playing at 1 p.m. is because of that man named LeBron James, who is still the face of the NBA and probably will continue to be the face until he retires, until, like I just said, my boy Luka Doncic takes over. 100%. The Bucks, it's a small market team. They play in Wisconsin. We've talked about this on other sports. Those coast teams get more love than the teams in the middle of the country. Giannis has really put the Bucks on the map for sure, though. And he will get some love when and if they make it to the finals. Moving on, though, like we mentioned earlier, the Raptors will be facing the Boston Celtics in round 2. The Celtics just destroyed the Sixers. Eric, this was your other East series to talk about. I thought this series was going to be a little more intense than this. Maybe without Ben Simmons, the Sixers just didn't have it. Boston looks nasty. What do you think about Boston moving forward?
I have them going to the finals, and I still believe they will. I think they're going to be playing the Raptors in the Eastern Finals. I think
they're playing the Raptors like this.
Next round.
They're playing the Raptors next round. Yeah.
So close.
So, I guess they're going to play the Bucks because I think they will get past the Raptors. But the Sixers just look pitiful. No Ben Simmons, but they TNT with Shaq and Barkley and everyone after, and the next day they fired their coach, the Sixers. I think he'd been there for like 10 years. He, brought them from the ground up when they were complete dog shit. And Shaq said, there's blame to be thrown around everywhere, but you got to look, these guys have been there for a while. And, you're going to get rid of the coach now. But, let's see if things change. He's like, I honestly don't think things are going to change much there. They're going to need a coach to really come in there and fucking change their attitudes, because we've seen this just rerun for the 76ers this last few years in the playoffs. I got to give Tobias Harris credit, though. That guy played his ass off. He did everything he could. But Embiid didn't really do much. He was lazy, as I figured. But I see the Celtics coming out of that series against the Raptors. I think it goes 7. Just from what I described in the past, the Celtics are some dogs out there. They're going to fucking fight for it, and it's going to go 7 games, and I think they can pull it off.
Yeah, the Celtics, they look really good. Jason Tatum is a superstar already. Jaylen Brown doesn't get enough love. We haven't talked about Kemba Walker. Kemba was brought in to be one of the best players on that team, and he's been solid. But Jason Tatum is the leader of that Boston Celtics team. I think that Celtics-Raptors series is probably the one to watch in the East coming up in the second round. Tyler, real quick, the very last series in the East, Pacers-Heat. The Heat just outclassed the Indiana Pacers. That was another sweep 4-0. Technically, that was a upset, if you want to say. The Heat were the 5 seed, the Pacers were the 4 seed. The Heat now have to face Giannis and the Bucks. What did you think of this series, and what do you think of the Heat moving forward?
Yeah, this was a series I thought would go a little longer than it did. This is the 5th straight season the Pacers have lost in the first round. So if you're a Pacers fan, sorry. Yeah, it's just for sure this all came down to the depth of the Heat bench. Tyler Hero off the bench was in double digits every single game. He had 20 in Game 3. In Game 4, Miami outscored the Pacers bench 38-3. So that right there, I think, tells what happened in that series. So yeah, I mean, moving forward against the Bucks, I think that the Heat will give the Bucks a little bit of a run for their money. I don't think that they're talented enough to beat the Bucks, but I think off this series sweep, Jimmy Butler's kind of resting a hurt shoulder. You know, hopefully that's not as serious as it might look. I don't think they will beat the Bucks, but I think that it will be a more challenging series for the Bucks than I think a lot of people think.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think this will be a good test for the Bucks. So then when they face either the Raptors or the Celtics, possibly in the Eastern Conference Finals, they'll have a little bit more of a challenge. You know, they've kind of been a little more battle tested by that point. But for sure, so far, the West has been the much more entertaining conference to watch. One last thing, the NBA draft lottery was this last week. Minnesota comes out with the number 1 pick again. They do already have Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Golden State ends up with the number 2 pick. I'm expecting them to trade that pick, maybe tagging it with Andrew Wiggins and kind of getting some more help with that Golden State team. That's probably honestly going to compete next year.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Michael Jordan-led Charlotte Hornets are the number 3 pick. It'll be interesting to see what they do. We're not going to get into it right now. There's just not enough time, and we'll kind of get into the NBA draft when it actually becomes closer. But I wanted to throw that out there. Again, happy birthday, Kobe. 8/24 Mama Day. They are going to name part of Figueroa Street in downtown LA after Kobe. That was announced yesterday. I think that's super cool. That's my NBA wrap up. We'll talk about it more next week as we kind of get into the meat of the second round.
One last note, Clippers just won by 43 points. So that's how they respond to losing on a buzzer beater to Luka Doncic.
Yeah, huge win for the Clippers for sure.
Good to hear. Thank you, Alex. And again, Adam Silver, please show us more Giannis at primetime television. Thank you.